The EX90 is Volvo's full-sized, all-electric SUV. It's not cheap, but it's not missing much either. And it's one of the safest and most comfortable large SUVs on the market. But is the drive-away price of $142,000 too much for all this electric kid-karting capability? Let's find out. Looking at some of the exterior details of the EX90, pretty long bonnet, but there is also some reasonable storage underneath there as well, which is great. The headlights are pretty interesting design. They also put a pretty interesting display on when you turn the car on. And there's some air vents under the number plate here as well, which help to cool the battery. They're closed at the moment, but when you're underway and they're needed, they open up. Coming down the side of the car now, big vehicle, big slab sides, but they are broken up somewhat by the styling with these creases here at the top and bottom of the car. Cameras, two of, on each rear view mirror. Looking at the rear window here, not too claustrophobic for the third row passengers. They can get a bit of vision out, a bit of light in. The window at the back as well is nice and deep, and that allows a little bit of extra vision out the back for the driver all the way in the front seat. All right, let's have a look inside the boot. Okay, looking at boot space, it's pretty good length here behind the third row, so there is some reasonable space here for school bags, that sort of thing. There's also some good space underneath the floor as well, so it's reasonably deep and you can fit some good size soft bags under here as well. But if you do need more space, these third row seats can be lowered, and they're electrically operated as well, using these little capacitive buttons at the back here. And that does open up significantly more. There's similar buttons to these inside the door apertures on either side to make them work from there if you need to. And a great demonstration of Swedish thoughtfulness in design is the inclusion of this section here that shows the measurements in the tailgate of how much room you have in the back of the car. So it helps you work out whether that big bit of IKEA furniture is going to fit in the back of your car before you take it home. Okay, let's have a look inside. Don't worry, these door handles, they retract when you lock the car and when you're driving. Inside, classic Swedish design, very clean looking interior, very few buttons, and it's all based in the screen. The air vent that runs across the whole dash looks like a single piece of design. Obviously there are just vents in these certain sections. Seats are super comfortable and beautifully designed. These little indicators of Swedish heritage as well, like this little indentation of the Swedish flag on the passenger side, another one on the seat, a little tag. Obviously Volvo are keen to play up that heritage given that so many of their cars are now made in China. But overall, a very comfortable place to be inside the EX90. One of the clever inclusions in the EX90 is the booster seat in the back, which is built in, which we've seen on other Volvos, and it's a really great inclusion because it allows smaller people to have a seatbelt going across the right part of their body. The third row in the EX90 can be very handy, but you need to be pretty small as well. It won't really accommodate you if you're more than 170 centimetres tall, especially in terms of head and leg room. Looking at some of the functionality and the features on the inside of the EX90, both variants of the EX90 get 4-zone climate control, and the entry-level Plus model gets a 14-speaker Bose sound system, whereas the Ultra model gets a 25-speaker Bowers & Wilkins system, as well as massaging seats. Look, one of the major drawbacks, you might say, of having such a clean design on the interior of the car, particularly at the front, is that the vast majority of the major controls are run through the screen. For example, the glove box, the ventilation controls, and even the rear view mirrors are controlled by the screen, which can be quite fiddly compared to the traditional way that they're operated. There's two ways you can get into the EX90, either via a key card that's virtual on your phone, looks like that, or you can get in via these credit card shaped keys. They do work, but you need to know the very specific way to place them on the door sensors to open the car. And then when you get into the car, they do, like the phone, need to be placed on the phone pad here, which I found a bit annoying because it means to start the car and get it rolling, you've got to put the keys there, and then if you want to charge your phone, It's only then that you can take them off and then put your phone on the charging pad. So it'd be great to have maybe either 2 charging pads or not have to do that with those keys to get it going. But in any case, it's a reasonably fiddly way to get the car started. And lastly, the panoramic sunroof that runs from the front to the very back of the car, the sun lined is optional. It would be great if that was a standard feature, especially in a market like Australia. Okay, on the road in the EX90, well look, there's plenty of grunt. It's all-wheel drive, and this entry-level plus model's got 300 kilowatts and 770 newton meters. And if you go to the ultra model, you get 380 kilowatts and 910 newton meters. But there's plenty of performance in this entry-level model for most people. For the sake of the difference of around $11,000, you probably won't notice. There's plenty of punch as it is. It's interesting to note though that the battery size in both models is the same at 111 kilowatt hours. Very quiet inside the EX90 as you'd expect it being fully electric. And the great thing about the range of this vehicle, which in real terms is around 500 kilometres, is that you don't have to charge it every day. So you can treat it almost like a petrol car where you charge this car perhaps once every 3 or 4 days in normal everyday commuting, and there'll be plenty left. LiDAR system is really easy to use as well and has got a autopilot type function, but it's more of an assist feature to keep the vehicle in the centre of the lane as you're driving with your hands on the wheel. And just something to bear in mind, it hasn't been rated by ANCAP or Euro NCAP, but all the signs are there that this is a very safe vehicle. That has not been validated yet by those independent authorities. So what do we like about the Volvo EX90? Well, the build and finish is excellent, the range and performance is right up there, and there's some also really practical, well thought out features, like the centre booster in the second row, the storage areas in the front and the back of the car, and even the measurements in the tailgate section. All of those make it a little bit easier to live with. And what don't we like? Well, of course, there's a move away from physical buttons into the screen. There's the fiddly key functionality, and also the sunshade is not standard. You've got to pay extra for that. We'd like to see it included. At $142,000 for a big luxury electric SUV, the Volvo EX90 stacks up pretty well against much more expensive rivals like the Mercedes EQS SUV and even the cheaper ones like the Hyundai Ioniq 9 and the Kia EV9. And we reckon if you can put up with those issues we mentioned earlier, you'll be pretty happy because the EX90 does everything else pretty well.